also.
Okay, cool.
Yeah, so that's a little. But it should ask for a password. I'll check on that.
That's
So
fine. I wrote it down in case I needed it and I didn't need it. So I figured I'd just mention it.
password. Okay. Check on that. We are Facebook Live.
Okay.
So don't say anything you don't want anybody to
Boo boo
know.
head.
There is somebody. See who that is. It might be Jimmy.
Okay. Oh, I thought he was going to a wedding. Was
Yeah,
somebody
he
just
said he was gonna try.
Oh, okay. Okay.
He just texted me and said, "Are y'all on?" And I was like, "Yeah."
Yeah.
So if you're just joining us on Facebook, this is the Be the Smart movement, and today we're talking about anxiety. Anxiety is very prevalent in our world. Sadly, I think our kids are most almost said infected. I feel like that is almost an appropriate word, but affected by anxiety. So we just wanted to get on here and let's have a discussion and see what people do to help them with their anxiety or what it causes. We'll just open the floor.
Mhm.
I actually pulled some cards, and y'all know me. And all of them were talking about being present
Mhm.
and not focusing on the past or the future. And I think that is definitely um, one thing that causes anxiety is if we're worrying about something in the past. Oh, there's Megan. Hi, Megan.
Hi.
Um, if we're worried about something in the past or something in the future, that brings us anxiety. And
Mhm.
staying in the present is a huge factor to letting go of some anxiety. So,
Yeah. There's a I didn't see all of it, but there's I think it's on Netflix called Blue Zone. And
mhm.
this guy is going around the world checking on the places where people live the longest.
Uh-huh.
Really interesting. I didn't get a chance to look at the whole series, but it seems really interesting. But one of the things that is really big with that is they live in the present. They live in the present. They don't let things, and then diet and eating habits and that kind of thing. But they're moving. They're moving, and so life doesn't tend to. And they live over 100 years in these certain. I think it was 4 or 5 different places where just historically they've lived longer in those areas. And I'm sure it has a lot to do with not allowing anxiety and that kind of thing to fill your life or fill your day and not just be in the grind mode all the time. So I haven't seen it all, but just check it out. It's on Netflix. I saw bits and pieces of it, but I want to check out the whole just to see what these people are doing
I'll
by
definitely put that
accident.
in our
They're not doing
notes.
it on purpose. It's just their lifestyle is
Yeah,
that, it's not like they're going to the gym and all of that stuff. They're just moving. Um, we go to gyms and stuff like that, but no, they're just moving or they're farmers or whatever it is, but they don't let life weigh them down and it's extending their lives. So anxiety can affect that in a negative way if you let it.
definitely. Yeah, and I bet they live a healthy
Hmm. Right.
healthy into their 90s and into their
Right.
hundreds instead of
Yeah.
just existing.
Right. 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 Yeah.
Yeah.
All moving, all doing things. Yeah.
Yeah.
Definitely. Definitely. No, they weren't. And in these places, I don't want to lie, but I don't think any of these places had convalescent homes. I don't think, yeah, check it out. Check it out. But I don't think any of these places had convalescent home because these people aren't getting old and getting sick. They're getting older, like we all are, but they're not getting sick.
Hmm.
So something to think about.
Definitely something to think about. Yeah. Megan, if you want to hop in, just remember to unmute.
Okay, now,
There you
now,
go.
never
Right.
mind. So what was that? You were saying there was something on Netflix.
Yeah, it's called Blue Zone. The Blue Zone.
The Blue
The
Zone.
Blue Zone, yeah. Really interesting. I
It,
didn't, like I said, I didn't see it all, but
right.
the pieces that I saw, I was like, oh man, I got to come back and check this thing out. Somebody had told me about it, but it's yeah, how these people are I don't know, I don't want to use the word accident, but they're not doing anything that they out of the ordinary. They're just
Right,
doing what they've been doing all their lives, and
right,
they're living longer and
right.
less stress and all of that stuff because of these habits that they've acquired over the years.
Yeah.
Really interesting.
Generational, right?
Yeah, yeah, really interesting.
Yeah, well, because it's interesting how countries have deal with things differently than our country, you know.
Mhm.
But for me, anxiety is just about the anxiety of sitting in a hospital for 3 days or for a week and
Mhm.
having people come in and take so much blood from you
Mm.
and then waiting for a procedure that they told you that they had canceled and moved it to the next day and you're starving because that's
Mm.
what you're supposed to do. I mean, I think and for and anxiety is the screaming monkeys in your head. If
Mm.
you have that, you have to think of something of happier thoughts. You
Mhm.
have to think of, family members or something or someone that makes you happy instead of those monkeys who don't make you happy.
Mhm. Yeah, yeah, I like that.
Yeah, that's definitely good advice is
Mhm,
redirecting your thoughts.
mhm,
But yeah, your health is definitely something that a lot of people are anxious about.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
mhm.
Yeah, and the hospital system doesn't help ease that.
No.
Oh, especially a mission hospital. That's anyway, but yeah, it's and anxiety can also, like for me, it cause you a lot of health problems,
Mhm.
on your heart, um, on your mind. I mean, it's a lot.
Yeah.
It, and it makes you tired as well.
Yeah.
It does.
So
Well,
true.
one thing anxiety does for sure is it releases cortisol.
Mm.
Cortisol is that thing that always keeps, settles in your middle and makes your belly bigger and
Mm.
makes you retain fat. And so that is definitely one thing that if you can release anxiety, it's one small thing that'll help with your health for sure.
Mm.
Right, and it's probably why you see a lot of people, um, i- is why why people exercise.
Mm.
Oh,
Yeah.
so and it, exercise is good for me because it's not just I'm losing the pounds, but I'm getting rid of those monkeys, the
Yeah.
anxiety.
No doubt about it.
So, but
Indeed.
it's yeah, it's not a healthy thing to be to have anxiety and stress. You know,
Mm. Mhm.
just not good for you.
Right.
And I've just learned the hard way. I have to deal with things around me that I can't control, and it's hard
Mhm.
because for someone who takes I used to take everything seriously. Now it's like I take it so personally, but I can't do anything about it. I can't, it all stacks up on you, and there's no way to breathe. And
Yes.
especially
Mm.
because you are suffocating in the world that is moving around you, and you can't breathe when there's no one can do anything about it.
Mhm.
So
It's true.
Yeah.
it's
Very true.
very hard.
Mhm.
It's true. It is scary. I've had a few anxiety attacks in my life, and it feels like you're having a heart attack
Mm-hmm,
Mm.
when all that comes at you at once, and you're like, wait, what is this?
mm-hmm,
And you got to breathe through it
You really
and
do.
until you can calm your mind and sometimes you don't even know what it is that you're thinking.
mm-hmm. It's
Mhm.
Where
I
did that come from?
I know I've thought about like, well, why did I have this dream it's like, oh, because I was talking about this, and that gets into your dreams. You're like,
Mm,
oh no, I gotta stop talking about that, so I won't dream that.
mm,
True.
yeah, so true.
Di-
And sometimes it's how you look at your situation too. I probably talked about this before. The first time I went to Colombia, it was in a farm town. You know, it's farm uh parade in that area, Santa Rosa. But anyway, farm town, and the lifestyle was so totally different. And from here, I don't like the word third world, but that's what we call it. Uh,
Mhm.
so I'm coming from with an American standard of living, and I see these people who take cold showers. Everything is pretty much out of their garden that they're eating. A lot of it is, or they trade and barter with eggs so. And I'm thinking these people are poor, but they don't know that they're. I don't know. They don't look at themselves as poor. I'll put it that way.
Yeah.
And it didn't seem like they were as tense or as anxiety filled as Americans. It was really interesting. It was really a wake-up call for me to see like little old women carrying these bags of, I don't know if it was rice or whatever, but they're going up a hill, and I consider myself in pretty good shape, and I'm going up this hill and I'm not carrying anything. I'm like, man, this hill is kind of, and they're just walking up like, you know, I don't know. So it's how you look at your condition too. A lot of times we can make our condition worse than it is by putting this other stuff in it. You know, this our imagination runs wild in a negative way, and we make our situation worse than it actually is, and that adds to anxiety and stress and shorter lifespans and all of that stuff. So
Mhm.
yeah.
Yeah, I am visiting Bali and even Morocco. I think Morocco is a little, it's not quite as poor as Bali, but the Bali mentality is that the families all live together and they just like expand their compound. Um, and so they have that internal support all the time. And they are some of the happiest people I've ever met in my life.
Mm,
They're friendly and happy, and they don't wear shoes. They don't have shoes.
mm,
And everybody's zooming around on these little scooters, and there's like five people on a scooter, and they just let people in and out of traffic. Nobody's throwing fingers, and
right.
they're just really happy, kind people. And it's not like they have a lot.
Yeah.
And I think that tells us too that it's not stuff that makes
Right.
us, you know.
Right. But it's really interesting is that our country, we haven't learned still yet that stuff is just stuff. That
Mm,
can be replaced, but your life cannot be replaced.
Mhm.
But your life reflects on society about how you how you feel and how you treat others. And I
mm,
think that's where the anger and the aggression, and what I really know is that, and you had said that most of these countries are, they're happy with what they have. Well, we have people who are so not happy with what they have,
right.
and they rail against things, and they blame others for not having what they they want.
Mhm.
Absolutely.
So it's sad, but it's, and people need to learn that, because I mean, for one day we all be, fighting someone or something all together, and you can't do that while you're um reminiscing the loss of an item, or
Mhm.
fighting over something that you want the other person to have. I mean, it doesn't help.
Yeah.
I agree.
Yeah. So true.
Right. But
Yeah.
I think it also intertwines all that when we've talked about this many times is how fear and anxiety and all that like bucking up against each other
Hmm.
is all intertwined.
Yeah.
It's like you have a huge umbrella, and then that the fear, anxiety, stress are underneath in the little other umbrellas.
Mm.
And so it's all it's not just one, it's many. That's what it is.
Yeah.
Mm. Yeah.
And
It's,
it's hard. And how do you work on it, and what do you do to work on it, you know?
mhm.
Yeah. I mean, like everything else, you got to start with yourself.
Right.
That-
And
I mean, that's all we can control is
that-
ourselves.
that's
Mhm.
true.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's true. Ourselves come first, right, Carrie?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I think people, people don't see that. I mean, it's sad because they're so busy worrying about their loved ones, and they're worrying about their job. But if people would just take more time for themselves,
Mhm.
then they would probably be a little bit more happier and a little bit more open, and realizing, wow, I really don't need all this stuff. I
No.
I need human kindness. I
Mhm.
need love.
Mhm.
I need to
Connection.
have a connection. I need to socialize.
Yeah.
That's the other feel people have. They isolate themselves.
Mhm.
Absolutely.
And so it doesn't help when you isolate yourself, because then you get all angry because
Yeah.
nobody's listening to you. Well, you're isolating yourself.
Right.
Gotta go speak
Yeah.
up.
There's a study that says that people that have, now I'm not talking about just going out there and getting random friends. So you have
Hmm.
to be careful about your circle, but people that have like a community, it extends your life. That actually is good for your health to
Hmm.
have people that you can, like this kind of thing that we're doing here. I
Yeah.
mean, although it's not a lot of people here, but having that community actually is good for you health wise, not just socially wise, but
Hmm.
it's for your health. Yeah.
Sorry, guys.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Go ahead. I just started a recording. Go ahead, Jeffrey.
Okay. No, I was just saying, yeah, there was a study about how just having a community, a group of friends, some people that you, and as men, especially, we don't do this very often. We don't hang out. Well, we'll go to sports events or something, but we don't kind of sit around and just kind of talk. And that's really healthy for anybody, but especially for men, because we kind of tend to, if we're going through something, we kind of do it by ourselves.
Right.
Yeah, having that strong community doesn't have to be a bunch of people, just people. Socialization is really important with the right people.
It is. And that is definitely one thing, like you said, Jeffrey, that one of the reasons that we started this, Be the Spark, is to
Mhm.
bring us all together and give people that support regardless of what they're going through. I
Yeah.
think that's very important as we're trying to figure out how to grow this Be the Spark and how to pull more people in to our community.
And
But I also think it can be like
mm,
it can be it can be something as simple as speaking to people in the grocery store.
Mhm.
Like, yeah, I really feel like you need a connection, that some people that you depend on. You don't have to have a big circle.
Right.
You just have to have people that you feel connected with.
Mhm.
But even that, I think about the people who are older and they live by themselves, and my mom being one of those people,
Mhm.
is just having that person in the grocery store be like, "Hey, how are you today?" And
mhm,
or "I really love your jacket," or whatever it is, just having that second or two of interaction that can really change somebody's day.
mhm.
Yeah.
And people are so fearful of getting help and also doing this, because they're not those are not used to the technology, and those who have that social anxiety. So,
Mhm.
but it's a good thing. I like it, and I'm learning about it. This is probably the first time I've been on, oh, the second time I've been with you, Carrie.
Uh-huh.
So, but I've done telehealth with my psychiatrist, and that's what my talk therapist, and that helps when I can't make an appointment, or like during Helene,
Mm.
it really helped a lot. So, and it's kind of weird because I won't be seeing her for a month, so I'm gonna have to work a lot in my journal. So,
Yeah.
but it's just interesting how we perceive um what we fear and what we are what gets us all worked up.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. What we focus on gets bigger and bigger and bigger.
Mm-hmm.
Like the little things, and it's like if you can get over put those aside and look at the big picture of what's
Mm-hmm.
going on, you
Yeah.
Yeah.
know, and things that don't make sense.
So many things don't make sense.
They don't.
Yeah.
Um, Jimmy sent me this, and because Jimmy is not available to be with us today because he's at a wedding, but I asked him to just send me a little blurb about what he thinks. So he says, to me, anxiety it has been a huge struggle for me. It's one of those demons that I failed to overcome. Yet, I'll add that.
Mm-hmm.
Bringing to a conclusion that anxiety, on the contrary, is a natural element we're all born with and live with.
Mm-hmm.
What matters is when it's triggered, as well as when it exceeds the optimum point.
Mm.
Regular curiosity is one of those factors that influence. To me, it has always been overthinking which suffocate mindfulness. Yes.
So true.
This has influenced the chronic anxiety condition, which end up hindering my sleeping routine. Yes.
Mm-hmm.
As well as being over ambitious. However, some people argue that anxiety can be positive to us having some good side. To me, I amiably disagree. Anxiety triggers distraction, hindering a person's focus on their purpose.
Mm.
Yes, all the above.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yep.
So true.
I think that is definitely a huge factor, is that if you're in anxiety, again, you're worrying about what other people think, or you're worrying about what might happen, or you're worried about what you are not.
Yeah.
And it definitely muddies the water to what you can be.
Mm-hmm.
Definitely. Oh, I love that.
Yeah.
That right there.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's so true. Let me give you guys, ladies and gentlemen, an example of an anxiety and how anxiety can really be dangerous. About a little over a year ago, I was getting some work done. We were getting some work done at this house where I live, right? And I wanted to help. I'm not one of those handyman. I wish I was, but I'm not. I'm just not. I've always had two left thumbs when it comes to fixing things. I either break them or somebody tells me to move out of the way and let them do it. I'm just not a handy guy. I wish I was, because I like all of that stuff. I admire guys that can do that. That can fix electrical problems and whatever. So I wanted to help these guys. I wasn't getting paid for it. They were getting paid for it. But I said, hey, can I just be your student and whatever you tell me to do, I'll do. And so they said, yeah, fine. So there was some stuff that had to be done in the roof. It's a little small, but you can't stand up in the roof. But you can, you crawl around. And so I had to run some wiring or something. And I got up there and it's really dark. And the light that was up there for some reason went out. And I'm telling you, for that 30 seconds, I was completely, I don't know. I was like a deer in headlights. I was just completely confused where I was. And I felt like my heart was going to bust out of my shirt. And all I had to do was move maybe 3 or 4 feet in the direction that I come. And where I come from, the little hole that I stepped in was right there, but I couldn't see it. And because I was so anxiety filled, I wasn't thinking clearly. So
Right.
anxiety can far, it can be very, very dangerous. And I start, hey, you guys, where I don't know where I am. I was really freaking out. And all I had to do was take 3 or 4 steps backwards, and I would have been right at the beginning where I could see light. But because I was so anxiety filled, I made the problem much bigger than it was. I think with anxiety, we do that.
Yeah. It's disorienting.
Yeah.
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 It is. It's well, and sometimes it's like after the anxiety, like you think about what could I have done different, or what could I have done, that makes more sense. Like I really should have had a flashlight or
Right.
the
Right.
light or one of
Mhm.
the little headlamps.
Right.
you
Yeah.
know, that would have helped. But
Mhm.
and there it looked like that, and then so the next time that happened, you're like, oh, I know how to do
I
this.
definitely had, yeah,
Actually,
yeah. It scared me, and I'm always, I don't know, I just, yeah, I felt really strange after I came out. I'm like, man, I was really freaking out.
mm-hmm,
I was really freaking out, and I was making it so much bigger than it was, and I just had to take a couple steps back and just take a breath and and just think, and then go backwards, and I would have found what I was looking for, which was light. But
right.
I freaked out. I really
You know
did.
what comes with fear? I just was just thinking about this is embarrassment.
Mm,
And just because you're just telling in that story, and you have the guys there who are knowledgeable and expert at this,
right.
and I just so guessing that they must have been maybe I don't know if like snickering at you.
Oh yeah, they were laughing. Yeah, once
They
I
were
came
laughing
down.
because
Oh yeah.
that's well,
Oh
another
yeah.
umbrella of fear,
Yeah.
fear, anxiety, and it's a lot to deal with.
Oh yeah.
You're right, though. You're right. But
Really.
also tells us that if we prepare ourselves, because
Mhm.
I'm the queen of procrastination sometimes,
Mhm.
and yeah, so if we prepare ourselves and
Mhm.
think things through before we step in that dark space,
Yes, that too.
that
There
can help too.
Hmm.
Yeah.
No doubt about it. Same thing happened under the house because I'm like 6'2", 6'2.5", and it's this little bitty spot. And they say, "You want to try it?" I said, "Yeah, I want to try it." And this is after this roof thing.
No,
I went,
you're
yeah, I
supposed
went
to
in.
say no, Jeffrey.
I went under. Neil probably knows what I'm talking about. So
Yeah.
I go up under
Yep.
there, and if you're not 5'2", you can't just turn around. 6'2", you got to
Yep.
back out. I'm like, oh
That
no,
ain't fun.
never mind, never mind,
That
never
ain't fun.
mind. So I didn't get scared. I just knew what my limitations were. I'm like, no, I'm 6'2" and I can't get out of here once
Nope.
I go way up under the house to get to where you want me. Oh no, that's okay. That's all right. I left that one alone. Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
Well, there's the other thing, right? Like through all those experiences, you get to learn your limitations and you get to learn to say no. That's really gonna like
Yeah.
prod my anxiety, and I'm good. I'm good. You do that.
Yeah. Yeah. You get paid to do this, and you've been doing it for a while. So,
Yeah.
uh,
Yeah, those crawl spaces and attics are not fun places to
no.
be.
Oh no, they're not. I don't like it either.
So I mean, it's funny after it's over, right?
Yeah. After it's
Also,
over,
Oh,
it
Right.
it's
wasn't funny when.
terrifying.
Yeah. Yeah. You really, your heart just starts beating. Yeah, especially in the crawl space under the house because you can't move. You have to go backwards just the way you came. I'm like, how do these guys? But they've been doing it for years, and it helped that the guy that was doing it was like 5'4". So I was like, okay, he could turn around if something happened. I couldn't turn around. I had to back out. And so when you see these movies, these guys are going in the caves and they can only go this way. I'm like, I'm not cut from that cloth. I'm not ever going. If I can't stand up and turn around and go,
Hmm.
I'm not doing it. I'm sorry. That's
Yeah,
anxiety.
what about the ones that go scuba diving that way? Like you insane.
yeah.
Mm,
No
yeah.
way.
Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah.
Well, yeah, they're scuba diving in a lake because if they're scuba diving in the ocean, got watch
Ooh.
out for all of the sharks and stuff. The lake, you're like, oh yeah, everything's fine, nothing to
It's
worry
just
about.
made me think of the people that go down in caves and scuba diving. I'm like, let's just
Yeah.
focus.
Oh yeah, those are even scary because you only have so much oxygen, and you have to find a space is that you
Mm-mm.
can get out of the water to breathe.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
Yeah.
it's oof.
Oh, it's scary. And just I always think what I would if I got under there and was really afraid, I might start breathing through my nose instead of you're supposed to breathe just through
Mm.
your mouth. I
Yeah.
think I would trip out for a minute and be like, okay, I'm gonna drown myself because I'm gonna go through my
Yeah.
nose. Uh-uh,
Hmm.
not me.
And it makes it worse the more freaked out you get.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, it really
Yeah, you
does.
consume more oxygen because you're panting as,
Yeah.
you know, my Labrador over here has been panting for days because of the weather. You use more oxygen and more energy and like it just is it's exhausting.
It is.
Yeah, and your heart just starts beating faster.
Oh,
You don't know
yeah.
what it is.
Good.
Yeah.
And there's so much to it. It's not just like you get a little shaky and nervous. Jimmy was just responding. It's not like you just get shaky and nervous. I mean, it affects your entire being.
Equilibrium for sure. Yeah, definitely.
Yeah. So
But
I hear some of the preventative ways is to be prepared, know your limitations,
mhm.
don't think about what could happen, just be in the present,
Yeah.
think through it. So yeah, those are some of the ways to deal with it.
Yeah, those people who overthink of it and then think of what the worst can happen. I
Mhm.
used to be one of those persons,
Mm.
and so I would just think of every scenario, or if someone has like an idea, I go, "Now, what's the worst that could happen with that?" And I tell them, they're like, "Oh," I'm like, "Yep,"
Be
and
careful what you ask for.
that is true. But now I've gotten over that. Now I'm just like worried about when things about my family, in the country, of course, and whatnot. But it's just now I have to. But you talk about focusing on yourself. So now I have to focus on myself since I had a blood clot removed from my artery in my left leg,
Mhm.
and I was diagnosed with AFib
Mm.
and type 2 deep diabetes all in one day.
Oh wow.
Yep.
Well, that is anxiety inducing.
Definitely.
Yep.
Yeah.
And they think that I had it for a while,
Mm.
and I didn't even know, what it is. And that's when, people are in denial of their health, and then something really bad happens, It's I could really died.
Mm.
I almost died. I that day when they gave me the conversion art conversion, they had a shock. They shocked my heart,
Mm.
and they looked down the back of my throat to make sure my heart was okay, so I wouldn't have another because it was blood clot. And
Hmm.
so then my heart went out, and
Mm.
they had to shock it, not to for the rhythm, but to get it back going. So
Mm.
and then I had two more of the conversions, and it didn't work. So it's and I have to have an ablation, and I have a CPAP machine. So
Mm.
it all stacks up again. Here we go, but it's more about yourself. So
Yeah.
this way I can focus on it.
Yeah. And as you were talking, I'm thinking,
Hmm.
how often are we anxious about something that might be wrong, but we're so anxious that we're not going to go get checked out.
Mm.
And then when we do get checked out, we get the diagnosis, then it just layers
Hmm.
the anxiety,
And that's what happened.
and none of that's good for your body.
Mm-mm.
So yeah. So there's definitely something that if something's nudging you, just go get it checked out. If it's
Hmm.
physical or even, mental or emotional, like take care of it and don't let it fester until it becomes so big that not only are you going to be dealing with whatever it is, but your anxiety is perpetuating it, and then your anxiety expands. Like there's just like it just multiplies.
Well, yeah, because that's what happened. Because I'm at an apartment complex that has had seen better days, but this whole last year was just awful. Because there's a lot of things that just happened. Like there were two shootings,
Mm.
and one was a murders. One was a shooting and a suicide, and
Mm.
Mm.
one was
Wow.
just like two like people having an argument, and one shot the other guy, and the next morning one of our um uh, one of the tenants found a dead body on the and I mean it's and
And
it's
this is all just right down the road from us.
right.
Yeah.
Mm.
There's
Wow.
that.
We don't hear about that.
I mean there's that, and then there was that airplane crash that happened up the road from me.
Mm.
I could see that ball of fire. It's like, and at first you think about, something that you can't um fix or you can't go help, you know, and you just have to say, okay, well, I can't do anything about it, so I'm just gonna, let it go. But when it all stacks up, it's hard to let it go because it keeps coming at you, you know,
Mm.
and it's just it's awful because it's it's just there's they had a one of the management companies, the new ones, came in and said, oh, we're gonna uh make some modifications to all the apartments. So what they did was is not only did they come in and take out some space, which was like right over there, we had
Uh-huh.
like, what was it? Yeah, we had some shelves, and that was all covered with boards and whatnot. But they knocked it down, and the work was so bad.
Mm.
And I'm like, does this, you talk about things that make you happy. This did not make me happy because
Mhm.
seeing this, the work, and losing all that space, it just was just depressing.
Mm.
And that's the part. And there's more, but it's just
Well, plus having people in your apartment
Mm.
huh?
that you don't know, having people in
Well,
your apartment that you don't.
yeah, and they're telling me you have to clean this stuff out, and I'm like, well, but the thing is that you didn't get started until after than it was supposed to, and then it was bad because these guys were working on apartments across from you and coming back and forth,
Mm-hmm.
Mm.
and that's awful. And most of these guys couldn't even speak English, and that's it's it and they were on their phones most of the time, and which was just, I mean, it's just, it was awful. And then the original management company, who got bought out by this other company that did this, Pegasus comes back and gets them, has bought them out, and it's all the same thing. They don't know what they're doing, and it's hard. I just don't know if all these apartment complex in North Carolina are like this now.
Mm.
It's just collecting the check, and they have people who can't do what the renters want or
Mhm.
Yeah.
what the renters expect. So, but it's, for me, it's just been awful. And then in January, this happens. I couldn't go to this ZPAC thing in February, and I couldn't go see Blake Shelton either. Well, because those are where I couldn't move, I couldn't walk, but uh, to walk to, I couldn't walk too far.
Yeah.
But it was like, and also the tickets were expensive, like $800. So it's like,
Wow.
yeah, mom wasn't paying that. So we had to scratch the whole trip. I
Oh,
mean, 2 trips. So it's but you have to soldier on. You know, that's it. Sorry for
You
talking
have
so
to
much.
really
you're
go.
Yeah.
fine.
You have to really go inside when all of that stuff is happening.
Oh,
Yeah.
yeah, it is. And then you got Helene, and it's like, but the anxiety of that was, well, because we didn't have cable TV, we didn't have anything, no phone, no nothing, and that was the anxiety of not knowing what was going on.
Yeah.
That was, I mean, that was hard. That
Yeah.
was
It was
really hard.
definitely a huge anxiety
Right.
event. Yeah.
It
Mhm.
was. And to be in line at Ingles outside, you have to wait. I'm
Yeah.
like, that's something like, that's like That's a communist country. That's what you talk, you know.
Mm.
Holy Moses.
Mhm.
Happened here, huh?
Yeah. Well,
Mhm.
I think that that's a good example of what's the word? A good reason to have anxiety, right? Like
Oh, yeah.
when something like a natural disaster happens or you've been through something, then that PTSD kicks in.
Mhm.
And then having it, and that's, I think, and I was talking to a friend of mine about this yesterday, is like when you have to make a choice to work through that.
Yeah.
So you're not always living. Every time a thunderstorm happens, you want to go run and hide and you climb to the top of the mountain where there's no trees because that way you're not going to get flooded or
Mhm.
and it's work we have to work through that stuff or it's going to continually perpetuate and build to be bigger and bigger and bigger. And then we're just going to be living in constant anxiety. And as human beings, we're not meant to live that way.
Right. But the way, you know, the way that you just thinking about this now is that you kind of work through it is not only, reminiscing about better times, you know, things, but prepping yourself for in case the next time or whatever may come,
Mhm.
making sure you have food because, you couldn't go to the market because they were closed.
Right.
You have to have survival food or something just for a little while. I mean, you have to be an responsible. That's the other thing, because then when you're not responsible, you have all the people who want to go and loot and want to go break into your house and all
Yeah.
that because they're either lazy to do it or they don't know how to be civil. That's
Or self sufficient.
yeah. There you go. So yeah,
Yeah. Self
or
sufficient.
survivalists
Yeah.
Yeah.
survive because people give up. They take themselves out of the world, either being non coherent or just not existing anymore. And they just don't care.
Mm.
And they give up. But
Yeah.
I'm not one of those people who give up because I know my family loves me. And, Carrie, we've talked about this before,
Mhm.
that to look outside and imagine you're in a box, or they're looking at you and you see them crying. I'm like, why would you want to cause more pain for them when you're pain? It just it's not worth it.
Yeah.
It's not worth it. I mean, yes, you have those thoughts, those feelings, but you can fight them. I mean, even when they get really strong, but you can, because there's people, like if I'm having a bad day, I'll just like text my mom or my sister, and then it's all set. Or go watch something that makes you happy, you
Yeah.
know. So, but there are things to do
Yep.
instead of getting on drugs and all that, and so.
That
Yep.
avoidance factor. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
No doubt about it. Interesting.
The funny thing is kind of redirecting, as we were talking about other countries.
Mm-hmm.
And our next our June conversation, I believe, is about traveling.
Ooh.
Mm. That's a good
Um,
one.
yeah, so
Mhm.
I think it's very relative that the two played into each other because I don't think that some other countries are as anxious as the US.
Oh,
And there, of
definitely.
course, there's many countries that are more anxious, of course, but I think US is probably up there at the top
Yeah.
of anxiety.
Yeah. That's why we spend the most money on drugs. We have more
Mm-hmm.
drugs. America keeps the drug business very well financed.
Hmm.
Really
True.
about our country that, yeah. we have a lot of anxiety, a lot of things that we don't want to cope with, so we cope with them in that way.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. And
Yeah.
I think
Mhm.
Carrie and I were talking before we got on here about oh no, maybe I said it since we've been on here about the traveling, just seeing it from a different perspective, seeing it
Mhm.
from seeing somebody as poor, and then you around them for a little bit, and you think, hey, they're not as poor as I thought. Maybe I'm the poor one. You
Right.
know, what I'm making a priority making me a little bit more poor than this person that may not have financially what I have or things like I have, but they have peace of mind. They're not stressed out. They don't have ulcers, you know.
Mhm.
So yeah, travel makes you look at things. At least it has made me look at things totally different. I remember one time I was in China, and the tour guide, he wanted everybody to call him Kobe because he liked Kobe Bryant. And and I said, and it's like, I don't know, 7 or 8 of us in the bus. He's taking us to wherever we're going, to some temple or something. And I say, yeah, I'm just a poor guy from Los Angeles. That's what I say. And he looks back at, because he's not driving, somebody's driving, but he speaks English. So he looks back at me. He says, you might want to rethink about calling yourself poor. I said, yeah, no, I am poor. I had to scrape up money to get here. He says, no, he said, I'll tell you what poor is. I have people that I know in villages that will never, they'll live their whole lives in that village. They won't even go to another state within this country. That's poor. You saying that you're poor, but you're here in China. How can you possibly be poor and you're 6,000 miles away from your home, but you're calling yourself poor? So I think you should rethink what you call poor.
Yeah.
Like, yep, got to do it. So that's what travel has done for me. It's made me look at things
Mhm.
a little different.
Yep.
We take a lot of things for granted. I have some issues with America, but we take a lot of things for granted, and we are blessed in so many ways. Maybe not that anxiety way. We need to get away from that. But as far as other things and having things at our disposal all the time, easily, yeah, we
Mhm.
take it for
Oh,
granted.
Yeah.
yeah,
The perspective.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
it's true. Because when I went to Russia and I went to China, and when we came back, we kissed the ground. We were stunning because those, but seriously, those countries don't have the freedom. They don't have that. They don't
Mhm.
have nice buildings. Their buildings are from, you know, their culture. They're not high. They were real high rises, and in Russia, the apartments were from 1940s, and a lot of them were most of them were gone because of the war.
Mm-hmm.
And it's just and they didn't have it's people have a there are many different levels of poor.
Right.
Yes.
There's you have things and you don't have things. I mean, look at the uh, parts of Africa, that have the people who are gold mining. I mean, they don't get much, and
Right.
they're in mud, and there's a high um, ch- chance that they'll die at doing something that they're trying to reach for.
Yeah.
And it's in China, it's their government, they won't allow them to do a lot, and again, they make them work
Yeah.
for like 40 hours a week, and they are all cramped in a apartment complex with no air conditioning when it gets hot, and it's hot over there. I
Yeah.
know. I got heat sick, and I couldn't. And uh, during the Great Wall of China, the video, or the movie that they showed us, and I couldn't go. I mean, it was just like
Mm.
it's sad. And when Beijing built the all the Olympics, where do you think? And but they took they sent out all the people who lived in that village.
Mhm.
So they got moved. I
Yeah.
mean, and then in the places that we build don't get used, like for the Olympics anymore. That's
Yeah.
why I don't like the Olympics. And there's a whole bunch of more things to it, but I just don't like it.
Yeah, it displaces a lot of people. People don't
Yeah.
realize that, but it displaces a lot of people.
Right. And when you get to what happens when you get displaced from like a hurricane or
Mhm.
from being in a country that doesn't care, just wants to make money off of where you live, it kicks you out.
Yeah.
You are depressed, you have anxiety,
Mhm.
and also frustration. I
Yeah.
mean, you are frustrated, depressed, and probably more suicidal,
Mhm.
because you don't have family to help you and resources.
Right.
And they don't have resources there.
Yeah, I think what this conversation has enlightened me to is that everything is about perspective.
Yeah,
Hmm.
that is true.
I mean, there are things we have to go through, and those things push us to be a better person, or to push us to what I like to call our soul's purpose. But we all have a choice.
Hmm.
Like we can sit up at night, and we're all guilty of it, right? Of
Hmm.
worrying or being excited or anxious about something that's going to happen tomorrow, or what we should have done in the past. But if we can bring the presence and gratitude for where we are at the moment, that we're safe
Hmm.
and we're not starving and we have water and we have shelter, and we can bring that into it, it balances out
Yes.
all the
Yeah.
chaos that's in your head, or the monkey mind, as you say,
Hmm.
Megan.
And we can do stuff like this. We can do this. There's some
Right.
countries you can't, there's a bomb falling close to you. So you can't sit on a computer and have a conversation. There's places that you can't do it.
Right.
You know, I saw this thing, and I know we're getting close to the time,
Oh,
and
you're
travel
fine.
is the next one. But he was talking about being in Japan, and I want to go and visit Japan. I want to go everywhere, as long as they're not bombing or anything. I want to go
Well,
everywhere.
yeah.
Yeah, but he was talking about Japan and how this. I don't know how long this American had lived in Japan, but he said that in Japan I think it was Japan. You have to ask permission to have a difference with the government. You can, that's a very serious crime. Whereas here we can say what we feel, right or wrong,
Mhm.
we can say what we feel. And he says when people have a totally different personality in the house than they do outside the house. Once they get outside and they're going to their jobs, everybody has the straight face and nobody's causing any problems. But at home, they may have some issues with the government, but they can't say anything. Whereas here, we can. We
Yeah.
can. That's a
Hmm.
beautiful thing. I don't agree with everything that goes on here, but at least I can say I don't agree with it and be
Right.
okay,
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
So,
Well,
yeah.
again, it's that perspective, and that like putting things into what other countries can't, and how free we are,
Yeah.
and just being in that moment and living from gratitude instead
Mhm.
of I don't like you because of whatever.
Mhm.
Like,
Mhm.
where's your gratitude that you can say that? Because
Yeah.
other places you don't get to
Can't,
say.
oh no, you have to be really careful. I
Yeah.
went to Malaysia, and I've always wanted to go to Malaysia. So I went to Malaysia, and I'm not knocking anybody that's watching this. I don't want them to think I'm knocking Malaysia. I'm not at all. But Malaysia is 98% Muslim.
Mhm.
So the whole country is dictated by I don't know. It's tough because I'm not anti-Muslim or anti-Christian or
Right.
any anti-religion. I'm just not religious. But it would be tough to be somewhere where it's guided by something maybe you don't believe, but you have to, it's dictated, any kind of movement there, you have to have that in the back of your mind that you can't do everything here that um, yeah, I don't know. Anyway,
I
yeah,
know what you're
we
saying.
take it for granted.
Yeah.
We
Well,
take it
yeah,
for granted.
because some people who go to, and I think this generation and probably the generation before, that they don't have the knowledge and they don't have the respect of what these countries like. For me, when we went to these countries, you didn't say anything about their president. Like, you didn't say
Mhm.
anything, um, and um, and their culture is their culture. This is
Hmm.
what they've been raised to think,
Right.
and it's so, and you have people who are coming not because of freedom, because you have that Muslim, but the extreme Muslim have are trying to take over that, and they'll take away your freedom, and if you say something, they'll kill you,
Yeah.
Yeah.
or if you feel something different, they'll take your life.
Yeah.
That's, so, but people are coming because of violence and crime. They're not coming because of freedom, because very little people you hear of, oh yeah, I need to get it. I need a job. They're like, no, I don't want to go back because I'm scared they're gonna take my life.
Mhm.
It's
The valid fear.
it
Yeah.
is.
Oh,
It's a
yeah. Definitely.
valid fear,
Yep.
and people are like, no, I mean, you're not here. Well, yeah, they're not here for a job at this generation. I mean, it was probably like, in the 40s, and they're coming for a job, but not this, and for freedom and to a better life. But no, they're coming because they're running. They're
Yeah.
Mhm.
running scared,
Yeah.
because the violence has increased, and crime runs the world. And
It,
people say, "Oh no, love conquers all."
no,
No,
it doesn't.
it doesn't.
And in certain places in Singapore, and I'm not a professional on this. I was just once I was there,
Hmm.
I was really just checking it out. There is no well, crime is very small. And it's not that the people are any better than any people on the earth or anything, but if you get caught, it's so strict that
Hmm.
that'll keep you, that'll keep you holy because
Yeah.
you don't want to get caught doing something wrong. So you don't, so there's little crime. You can walk the streets any kind of any way, not because the people are holy or holier than thou. It's because if you get caught doing that, it's totally different. Not going
Yeah.
to be slapping you on the hand in some of these countries. So,
Well, yeah,
Mhm.
those jails are different.
Yeah.
The
yeah.
the
Oh,
gulag
yeah. Well, that's,
and the one in Venezuela. I mean,
yeah. Yeah.
it's them, and people, they do things. They like to walk, like across the country, and, oh, let's walk into Afghanistan or hike in. I'm like, you don't know what you're in for. I
Yeah.
mean, it's not
Talk
like,
about
and
it, some
then
anxiety. Yeah.
it's the anxiety of, like, we
Oh, no.
it's so then you have to have a politician to come and get you
To
out
get
for
you out. Yeah.
stupidity.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I
And
mean,
America. Oh, I'm sorry. And
like
America. Oh, I'm sorry. Go on. I'm sorry.
no, like Brittany Griner, and it's journalist, and and that poor kid who was I think it was Korea, and he stole a flag, and then he was in prison, and they beat him up so bad that once they turn him back over, he died from his injuries a couple
Mm.
days later in the hospital,
Yeah.
Sad.
because
Awful.
it's bad, real bad. I mean, you look at, and in London they have a whole population of Muslims that have come over, and they're not assimilating. They have no go zones. They have expanded, or people cannot go into their neighborhood. Wait a minute, this is not your country. Second of all, like a week ago, they had knife wielding, these guys who run around in London, um, try, stopping tourists and saying, "Are you American?" And then they'll kill them
Mm.
right there. I mean, it's awful.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I'm not, and I don't want
Trying to
anybody
be
to think I'm
a
being
Debbie Downer, but
anti-police. I'm not. I'm just looking at how
oh
different it
no,
is, you know?
yeah,
Yeah. So, And you
It's
just have to be
sad.
careful. Traveling is a beautiful thing, but you just have to do your study before you go, just so you
Oh yeah,
know. Just
and
so
be
you know.
respectful.
Yeah.
Yeah, and
Yeah.
be
You got to know
respectful.
how
Don't,
to,
and don't get
Yeah, don't take an
yourself in
American attitude
trouble.
somewhere that American attitude may get you in trouble. You have to
right.
respect the culture, even if you don't I couldn't live here, but you have to respect it, especially
Right.
while you're there. You
Yeah.
know,
Especially right.
while
Then
you're
you
there.
can talk about it when you get back.
Yeah, when you come
Talk
back.
about it,
Yeah,
write about it. Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah, I
Mhm.
know. It's like save it, put it in a journal. Yeah.
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 Put it in the journal. That's safe. That's safe.
That's the best way to do it.
Yep, yep,
Yeah. Well, I think gratitude
yeah,
for
definitely.
where we are is a
Gratefulness,
huge
yes.
factor, and
Hmm.
especially when it comes to combating anxiety and
Yeah.
so many
Mm,
things that are in this world.
they are.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, what a
But
great conversation. Does anybody have
uh,
anything they want to add before we jump off here and conclude?
That was great. I'm glad we had it. It was a good conversation. Sorry to go all
Yeah.
over the place with the traveling thing.
No,
That's
I,
a pretty
I
good
think it's
topic. Yeah.
yeah. I think it's
Yeah.
it's very valid to consider. I wish Jimmy had been able to have a, input, and maybe he can, write something about how anxiety producing it is to live in Uganda. Or
Hmm.
maybe it's
Hmm.
not as anxiety producing as
uh
our perspective thinks it is. Uh,
right.
or anybody else who wants to jump in. I know Terry lives in Germany, and
Hmm.
maybe that she has a different perspective. And
Or
so,
somebody in the Bronx.
yeah,
They're like,
Yeah.
there's some places here that you don't want to be caught at night.
Oh
So
no.
the world has those spots. You just
Oh
have to be
no.
cognizant of it.
absolutely.
Yeah.
Nope.
Yeah.
It's just have to remember that we're all in this world together, and we
Mhm.
have to
Exactly.
stick together.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's probably my last thought. It
Yeah.
is my
I
last
mean,
thought.
you're right. Yeah. And everything's a choice.
It
We have
is.
a choice to live in the anxiety. We have a choice to live in the future and live in the past, or stay here in the present, which is really the only place life truly exists.
Exactly.
Hmm.
And have that gratitude, because what we feel like is so detrimental to us, somebody else in a different place
Mhm.
would love to be in our shoes.
Yeah.
Mhm.
So, yeah.
Not too long ago, there was a point where I didn't have many socks, right? Didn't have many socks and underwear. Just at that point, I guess we've all went through that. But the other day, not too long ago, not one the other day, a few months ago, whatever, I looked and I got frustrated because I had so many socks. I'm like, what socks? And I had to catch myself. Like, look how bratty you're being. You had a point where you didn't even have socks. Now you're complaining that you have too many. You got to look through. I'm like, oh my God. Yeah, it's perspective. You got
Yeah.
to have the right perspective, and priorities got to be, I had to check myself. Like, yeah, you sound like a big brat.
Yeah. Quick, I got a quick ending about the socks. So, a long time ago, my dad and I are in New Mexico, and I'm about to start boarding school. And so there's a park, and there's a homeless guy and two guys who are just right, just uh, bullying, being a bully, and they took his socks. My
Mm,
dad jumps out of the car, runs down, and they started to tussle. I mean, and so my dad had a bum shoulder and a bloody lip. And
mm,
then and then my dad goes, "Oh, we have to go stop at the park." And the guy was there, but my dad said, I said, "Why are you doing this?" He goes, "Because that guy, it was his only pair of socks."
mm,
And so my dad had a ton of socks. You talk about,
mm,
he brought a ton of socks back down to that guy and gave it to them.
Oh,
mm. It's a great story.
It's like a shirt off the back, but
Yeah.
it's socks.
Yeah. That's a
They
great.
weren't, I mean, they were just socks,
Yeah.
yeah. But
Yeah.
they meant a lot.
There's a
Oh
lot to
yeah,
that.
to that guy.
Mhm.
He was hanging on dear life to those socks. So it was only the one he had.
Yeah.
He thought Jeffrey was going to take them.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, Jeff.
I was gonna try and
Want
snatch
some
them, especially if they're
socks?
colorful. I was gonna try and
Want some
snatch them
jogging socks?
off.
Want some dress
I love
socks?
it. I love it. What a great story and a giggle to
Yeah.
end on.
Yeah.
Well, thank
I'm
you.
gonna use that story. I got to take your story.
Yeah.
That's a great story. Top story. I love that.
Mhm.
That'll keep you in check, Jeffrey.
Oh yeah, definitely, definitely.
Yeah.
Well, I really thank everybody for being here today and just making this connection and which is what it's all about
Mhm.
and having some deep thought around anxiety and how
Mhm.
people can deal with it. And of course, if you want to have some perspective for those listening, or you want to share your story, you can definitely type it in here or make a video and tag us in it so we can just keep sharing our stories and ways to deal with things in this world and come together and make it a better place.
Mhm.
Yep,
Yep.
definitely.
Be
Thank you all.
kind.
Great. All right.
Mhm.
All
Thank
right,
Thank
you
you.
come
all.
Bye,
back.
See
Come
you
everyone.
back,
next
everybody. That
month.
was really nice. I
Oh yeah.
enjoyed
Take
See you
that.
care.
next month. All right.
All
Bye-bye.
right, take care,
Bye.
everybody. All right,
Bye,
have a great one.
everybody.
All right, bye.